For many years, Buckingham Palace pretended like they couldn't hear anything. Then, all of a sudden, things were totally different. People who worked inside the palace said that official documents were finally ready. These weren't rough drafts or warnings, or, we'll think about it later notes. These were final commands that would forever change what happens to two kids who never wanted to be in this mess. Archie and Lilibet. People who knew what was happening said the message in those papers was really harsh and simple. The kids' right to be called royal was taken away. Not postponed, not being thought about, completely taken away. When those words got written down, the palace's long silence finally made sense. They hadn't been ignoring the situation at all. They were sitting back, staying calm, being patient, and totally sure that their rule book would be more powerful than anything Meghan and Harry said out loud to everyone. However, to really get why the royal family made such a harsh and final choice, we need to look at a really old book, one that was written way before Meghan, Harry, or their kids were even born. It's a rule book that has been in charge of the royal family tree for more than 100 years. The year was 1917. The whole world was fighting in a war, big empires were falling apart, and the British royal family was really trying hard to keep itself safe from mix-ups, fake people pretending to be royals, and dangerous politics. So King George V did something that no king had ever done before. He wrote down in official legal words exactly who could be called a prince or princess, not as a bedtime story, not as something passed down from grandparents, as actual law. His announcement was named the letter's patent, and it became the main foundation of royal identity for every generation that came after. Inside this important document were 3 super strict rules that a royal child had to follow. Rule number 1. The child has to come from a real royal bloodline. The royal family wanted to make absolutely sure that nobody without clear royal ancestors sneaked into the line. Rule number 2. The child's birth has to be officially noticed and written down by the crown itself, not through a newspaper announcement, not through a private message, by the royal household itself. Rule number 3. The child has to be connected to the Church of England through an official christening ceremony. This wasn't something you could choose to skip. It was thought of as a legal step in becoming royal. These rules were cold, exact, and never changing. They were created to protect the monarchy from the exact thing it was most scared of, confusion and disorder. For many decades, every royal birth followed these rules perfectly. No cutting corners, no breaking the rules, no big problems. Until Archie was born, and the very first crack showed up in the royal records. Archie's birth in 2019 should have been easy and straightforward. A happy announcement, smiling parents, a new baby being welcomed into history books. At first, that's exactly what it looked like. But inside the legal paperwork, inside the one document that was supposed to protect a royal child's identity forever, something weird happened. Archie's birth certificate at first listed his mother the way most legal papers would, Rachel Meghan Markle. Everything was normal and correct. But later on, the document got changed, quietly, suddenly, without a good explanation. Meghan's full legal name got removed and replaced with just one phrase, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. Now, birth certificates are normally locked tight. They don't get edited like homework assignments or updated like Instagram posts. They're meant to stay the same forever. So when this change showed up, it made alarm bells go off behind the palace walls. Meghan, said the palace, forced her to make the change. Palace helpers said Meghan asked for it herself. Both sides said the other one was lying. And nobody ever gave a final answer that everyone agreed on. But here's what really mattered to the monarchy. A royal birth record had been changed. And once a royal record has any doubt stuck to it, that doubt becomes a crack, one that spreads out, one that gets bigger, one that eventually makes everything fall apart. By the time Lilibet was born in 2021, the palace had already figured out something powerful. Staying silent can be louder than making any statement. Because when her birth happened, the whole world expected a familiar scene. Royal doctors standing nearby, official announcements coming from Buckingham Palace, photographers getting ready to take pictures of the newest member of the royal family. But none of that stuff happened. Instead, the birth of Harry and Meghan's daughter was announced from thousands of miles away, wrapped up in a cheerful press release from sunny California. A modern announcement, a friendly message, a picture-perfect statement. But something was missing. Actually, Someone was missing, the crown itself. There was no royal seal, no palace saying it was true, no formal record, no royal witness showing up. And to people who study royal rules and traditions, this wasn't a small thing. This was a signal, a quiet message delivered without saying a single word out loud. We are not claiming this child as ours. For hundreds of years, royal births had been treated almost like important historical ceremonies. Every single detail mattered: where the child was born, who helped deliver them, which doctors signed the papers, how the crown wrote it all down. These steps weren't just traditions. They were the monarchy's way of saying, this child belongs to our history. But with Lilibet, none of those steps got followed. To regular people watching, it just looked like a simple difference. One baby born in the United Kingdom, one baby born in America. But to the palace, it was way bigger than that. A royal child was introduced to the world without the crown being involved at all, making her the first Windsor family descendant in modern times to come into the world outside the royal record books. And inside Buckingham Palace, this wasn't seen as an accident or mistake. It was seen as a shift, a break from the path that every royal baby had walked down for over 100 years. The quiet rejection had started. If the birth made people raise their eyebrows in surprise, what happened next set off real alarm bells. Months later, Meghan shared that Lilibet had been baptized in California. She spoke warmly and lovingly about the ceremony, the happiness, the photographs, the special meaning. But behind the palace walls, the reaction was totally different. Because for royal children, a baptism isn't just a nice family event. It's one of the main requirements set by the 1917 letters patent. It's the moment when the child gets formally tied to the Church of England, the crown, and all the centuries of tradition behind them. It's a legal marker that's just as important as a birth certificate. But according to sources who knew about church records, Lilibet's California baptism was never registered with the Church of England. To the couple, it was a beautiful celebration. To the monarchy, it was a ceremony that legally didn't exist. And in the royal world, this isn't a small problem. This is a huge structural issue. A child without a recognized Church of England christening is considered outside the official record, no matter how meaningful and heartfelt the ceremony was. Inside palace circles, this was viewed as a mistake that could have been avoided but now couldn't be fixed. The crown saw it as breaking protocol, not by the child herself, but by the parents. And instead of making Lilibet's connection to the monarchy stronger, the event did the complete opposite. It left her floating between two different worlds, celebrated by her family in America, but unrecognized by the institution she was born into. While these cracks formed quietly, another problem was growing, something way more personal and way more painful. When Meghan married Harry, she didn't just join a family. She stepped into a worldwide story, a royal story. As the cracks in the royal foundation got wider around his children, Harry did something nobody expected from a prince who promised he was done with the monarchy. He reached back out. According to people who knew about the private conversations, Harry made late-night phone calls to the very institution he had walked away from. These weren't strategic calls or polished, media-ready speeches. They were emotional, personal, and begging. He begged the palace to think again, begged for Archie and Lilibet to be written into the royal record books, begged for the titles he believed his children deserved because of their blood. To Harry, this wasn't about being famous or building a brand. This was about legacy, the one thing he thought he could protect even after stepping down from royal duties. He believed he could leave royal jobs behind and still raise royal heirs. But every single time he tried to explain, he hit the same unmovable wall. A palace aide supposedly responded to him with a sentence so cold and so direct that it would echo in his mind for months. This is not about feelings and emotions. This is about order, bloodline, and the future of the crown. And for Harry, that was the moment when everything shifted and changed. Because he realized something absolutely devastating. He wasn't just the prince who walked away from royal life. He had become the prince whose children were being erased from it. Once the palace made its decision, it moved with extraordinary precision and exactness. No cameras, no press conferences, no dramatic royal statements. Just quiet, steady action, the kind the crown is famous for. According to insiders, the consequences weren't gentle, weren't temporary, and weren't up for discussion. This was the complete list of what Archie and Lilibet allegedly lost. No royal titles, no prince, no princess. No ceremonial roles or official duties or public honors. No place in the line of succession, their names removed or blocked from the legal order. No crown-funded security, their protection left completely up to their parents. No permanent record in royal archives, the history books that last for centuries no longer include them. In the world of royalty, titles aren't just fancy words. They're keys. They open doors to history. They tie a child to a family lineage. They guarantee a place in a story that's bigger than any single person. Without those keys, a royal child becomes ordinary and regular. And that's exactly what the palace's final orders did. They stripped away everything that connected Archie and Lilibet to the centuries-old Windsor legacy. Not as punishment, not as revenge, but as following protocol and rules. The monarchy had acted, and nothing would ever be the same again. In the end, Buckingham Palace never shouted, never argued, never tried to outtalk the whirlwind of interviews, podcasts, or documentaries. It didn't need to, because the monarchy has always understood its greatest power: silence. Silence isn't emptiness or nothing. Silence is strategy. Silence is the crown's way of saying everything without saying a single word. For years, the palace watched from a distance, quiet, still patient. It watched Meghan build her brand as a royal mother. It watched Harry struggle to bridge two different worlds. It watched the documentaries, the public speeches, the criticisms of the palace, all without responding or saying anything back. Because the monarchy knew something the rest of the world forgot. Power isn't proven with noise and loudness. Power is proven with finality and permanence. And when the time finally came, the crown acted with the cold precision of an institution that's older than empires. It erased titles. It rewrote records. It removed names from history's path with a message that will echo louder than anything Harry and Meghan have ever said. The crown does not bend or change. Not for personalities, not for celebrity status, not for noise or attention-seeking. And once the crown chooses to erase your place in its story, you're not a rebel or a revolutionary. You're not a threat. You're not even a chapter in the book. You're simply gone and forgotten. That's the monarchy's final message. Chilling, quiet, and permanent. And it leaves one last truth hanging in the air. Archie and Lilibet will grow up loved, protected, and free. But the pages of royal history, the pages that last way longer than any interview or documentary, will not carry their names. The absence is the punishment. The silence is the answer. And the decision, once it's made, is forever and can never be changed.